Liberia is one of the richest countries in the world, and that's because of our forests. Let's protect our forest so that it protects us. Our forest brings development. It promotes sustainable livelihoods for our youth and women and makes the tourists to come and see what we have. They come to see our animals, our beautiful beaches and waterways. Let's keep our forests alive so that we benefit forever and ever.
My people, yeah, let's protect our forests.
Protect it all. Protect it all.
My people, yeah, let's protect our forests.
Protect it all. We must protect it.
Good afternoon and a pleasant welcome to another interesting edition of the program Forest Hour on OKFM 99.5.
It's our body.
This program is brought to you by the Liberia Forests Media Watch with sponsorship from the European Union through the French Development Agency and Simempo in Finland. Today is the 4th day of December 2025. My name is Matthias Labindi. As always, I'm here with my colleague Joy Madiemore. And Blessing is handling the production.
Our forest, Liberia is rich.
Today we're going to be talking to you about the well-researched article written by the Global Witness. I know many avid readers of Liberian news, when you hear Global Witness, what comes to mind? Big Ball 1, Big Ball 2, right? No, but this time around, Global Witness has done an investigation on Liberia's cocoa industry. Maybe you can just check on the Global Witness website now and you want to read the article. It is titled Chocolate Giants Fuel Deforestation in West Africa's Last Rainforest. Liberia has a great potential and that we have something that many countries do not have. Without much ado, we're going to go straight into it and also enjoy to just give us some quick information about our tips as well as stations that are relaying this program. Good afternoon, Joy.
Yes, good afternoon, Matthias Labendi, and good afternoon to the listeners out there. Liberia's or Africa's last rainforest. That's interesting, though. As usual, we have the Alternative Youth Radio that is in Izosa, Lofa County, Voice of Papulu in Populu City, Liberty Radio in Greenville, Sano County, Radio Halingi, Kulahon District, Rivers Broadcasting Service in Rivers County, Top FM in Sueju, Grand Chide County, and the Voice of River G, in River G County. So these are the stations that are relaying this program in the various counties that I just listed.
And the reason why we, decided to relay the program to the various counties, those of you following us in many parts of Liberia, is because we want you to be part of the conversation. That when these issues are raised, in fact, some of the story we are even going to be discussing today, and the interview we're going to be having with our colleague from the Global Witness, Charlie Hammans, it's all about cocoa industry in Liberia. But without wasting much time, let's get into it now. First, let me establish one thing: that this investigation was our own Paul Kane from the Liberia Forest Media Watch made a significant contribution towards this publication. And in fact, when I shared the document with some of my friends, send the link in various chat rooms, and one colleague of mine, Richard, said, what kind of news article has about 46 page document? This is a whole research paper.
A whole book.
A whole book, all right? Because it's detailed.
Yes,
now, they came here to Liberia. They drew, connections from different parts of Africa, as well as, the European market. Giants, cocoa or chocolate giants in the European market. Charlie spoke with us. I interviewed Charlie this morning, and we had a conversation. It's an interesting thing that Charlie Hammans is joining us. Let's quickly bring in Charlie so that he can make his contribution. Thereafter, that we get into the conversation. Welcome, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. I'm actually flying to New Zealand later today, so I'm really excited for a trip to go and see my family there. I'm doing really well.
It's good that you are finally on.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm here. Let's go.
Yeah, Charlie, thank you for this detailed article. I've been going through it, and I think yesterday was the second time I read it. It's really detailed, well researched. It's a brilliantly written article, and thank you for that.
Oh no, my absolute pleasure. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Right. Let's begin first by knowing, while you were here in Liberia, what did you enjoy about the country? Your personal experience.
Actually, due to commitments at home, I didn't actually travel to visit Liberia as part of this investigation, but I managed a team of 2 investigators that actually went on the ground. So the amazing local journalist we worked with was Paul Canner, who I know you know, and also worked with a colleague of mine who used to work at Global Witness, who's a superb investigator called Colin Robertson. And basically, he, it's funny to say, I didn't actually visit Liberia, and I've never visited Liberia, but I carried out myself from my desk here in London probably over 30 interviews with all different people along the cocoa supply chain in Liberia. So I'm talking to farmers, to traders, to exporters, to academics who've done studies in the field. So it's, really interesting. Even though I didn't visit, I actually felt that I got a real flavour of Liberia's personality.
Okay, so the details were shared from the investigation conducted by the local journalist here, Paul Kane, and your colleague that visited,
Exactly.
Right, Liberia,
Exactly.
right. I mean, this is let's begin. In your analysis, you mentioned in the second paragraph, which I just want to get to quickly, is that you said the analysis from Global Witness reveals that Liberia's cocoa belt lost an area of forest greater than the size of EU country Luxembourg between 2021 to 2024. I mean, how big is the harm that deforestation is causing to Liberia that many people here do not know? And your article really detailed it.
Yeah. I mean, Liberia is incredibly unique in terms of its forests. It is really the last area of intact tropical rainforest in the Upper Guinean rainforest system. So Liberia is a really, really special country. It's still, despite a lot of recent deforestation, got high forest cover. And, this is absolutely critical for so many reasons. Firstly, this used to be a very long ecosystem that stretched all the way from Ghana to Guinea. But because actually of the cocoa industry and mining and palm oil and other sort of forest risk commodities, the rainforest has been really decimated over the last sort of 50 years. And Liberia's rainforests are vital. They're, a home of endangered species, like chimpanzees, for example, and housing very, very important, globally significant carbon stores as well in our fight against climate change. I should also say as well that a huge amount of Liberia's population still depend on forests and the products you get from the forest for their daily lives. For firewood, for non-forest timber products. So it's a vitally important ecosystem. One other thing that I think is really vital is if you look at other countries like Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, because they have deforested so much of their critical rainforest, the same ecosystem that Liberia has, they are now really experiencing the strong winds of climate change. So we look at, for example, that the cocoa industry has caused the deforestation in those countries, and it's now suffering because the rainforest regulates rainfall. And now in those countries, they are either getting drought or they're getting extreme floods. And that's why Liberia's ecosystem is so special.
It's good that it's coming from a foreign journalist working with the Global Witness.
Yeah.
And most time when we sit on our radios here in Liberia and we try to educate the public, most especially the Forest Hour show that you are on right now, many times people, sort of doubt, what we say, and, we don't get much, response from government in terms of making sure that people are held accountable or liable for, abusing the forest. Given your analysis of the data you gather from Liberia, you mentioned that Global Witness, your investigation has revealed that Europe's hunger for chocolate is helping to drive a new deforestation crisis in Liberia. Chocolate giants, in a word, how are they getting in contact with Liberian cocoa farmers or dealers that is causing this rampant deforestation?
So it's a brilliant question. So the question of global supply chains and chocolate and cocoa supply chains is a fascinating one because it seems so remote. The link between, a huge chocolate giant like Mars or Mondelez that make dairy milk or Hershey's, for example, in the United States. So what's really I wanted to highlight in this report that there's like a dual story, if you like. So in the EU, we eat I think we're the biggest per capita consumers of chocolate, but because we don't have any guarantees of where that chocolate's come from, in most instances, we could be fueling deforestation in Liberia or anywhere else in the world. And the interesting thing is that, Liberians that are living in rural poverty, for them, cocoa is a very important cash crop. And I didn't want in this report, and I think I succeeded. I don't want to blame Liberian farmers, who are in poverty for growing cocoa. What I really want to do is shine accountability on the major companies that have such long, obscure and complicated supply chains. They are fueling it indirectly, if you like. So what happens really is what we traced from farm all the way up to the chocolate companies is this incredibly difficult system. So we found that cocoa farmers that are very small and very small plots and forested in the last few years, they've been selling to these middlemen, and these middlemen, they go and sell it to really whoever, but they mainly sell it to the exporters in Monrovia. And because the middlemen and the exporters buy so much cocoa, it really could come from absolutely anywhere in the country, and there doesn't exist a system to stop deforestation cocoa flowing into Europe at the moment. And these traders buy huge amounts of cocoa from everywhere in the world. So Liberia is still a relatively small producer of cocoa, although our research did find that the exports seem to have really boomed in the last few years, and more cocoa is being sold and exported from Liberia. But then in Europe, this is bulk bought by big European traders, and they buy it from everywhere. So they may be buying from South America, be buying from Cote d'Ivoire, from Ghana, from Liberia, from all over. And then what we found is this crazy system, this obscure system called mass balance, allows the deforestation-linked cocoa from Liberia to be mixed with clean cocoa or deforestation-free cocoa from other countries, and then still sold to European consumers as sustainable. So unwittingly, UK, EU consumers are buying chocolate, and they don't know that it could be linked, all the way back to a farm that is cleared Liberia's forest. And I should say also another point is it is absolutely vital that these traders start to invest in traceability in Liberia. We're seeing the introduction, although it has probably been going to be delayed for another year, of a law in Europe which is going to require any chocolate that is sold in the European market to be linked all the way back to the farm the cocoa beans were produced on. And that would really help Liberia to generate a sustainable industry. But at the moment, the traders are just buying in bulk from the exporters, regardless of where it came from, and mixing it with other cocoa sources.
Thank you, Charlie. The issue of the EUDR that is very keen on the issue of deforestation, and this is one topic we've discussed on the Forest Hour show. We've shared with the public about what the EU intends to do regarding the issue of deforestation. Products from deforested land should not enter the European market. But is it that the EU could be consuming inadvertently? It could be consuming chocolate produced from cocoa harvested from deforested land in Liberia. From your analytical standpoint, what could be done? Because this appears to be a menace in Liberia today.
Absolutely. So I think that's a really really gets to the nub of the question and the issue between Europe and countries like Liberia. So what we see is, at the moment, some of the traders that we found have been buying from Liberia for years are now dropping Liberia as a supply country, and they're not ordering any more cocoa beans because now they're worried that under the European law they may be found to be accountable for putting deforestation-linked products on the market, because ultimately it's the current stage is not fully traceable all the way back to source. What I tried to say in my article, and what I really passionately believe, is we are talking about some chocolate companies and some traders that make billions in revenues and profits every year. So one example I used in the report is Mondelez, which is one of the largest food companies in the world. Their chocolate division alone, in the last year that reports are available, they actually made something like $11 billion from all of their chocolate sales worldwide. Now, that's more than twice the entire GDP of Liberia. So we have a real equity issue here that, in Europe, we're asking countries like Liberia to produce our raw material for our chocolate, but we're not supporting Liberia and other countries as well to actually develop a sustainable system. What we found is that in countries like Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, they've learned the lessons too late. They're now investing in traceability all the way back to the farm. And some of the chocolate companies for those countries, which are the major, that together they account for about 60% of all the world's cocoa supply, they are now investing in traceability in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. But the option with the EUDR, what the risk is that Liberia just gets dropped completely, the country. What they need to do is the traders and the chocolatiers need to acknowledge that they're sourced from Liberia, both directly and indirectly, for a long time. And they need to actually support the Liberian government and the exporters to develop extensive traceability systems. There's been some really good research that shows the cost of compliance with the EUDR can only be as little as 0.1% of a major company's revenues. That's a really small amount when we're talking about billions in profits. And they could help Liberia actually have a fully traceable supply chain system that meant only sustainable cocoa got to the market and rewarded the farmers in Liberia that are choosing not to cut down big areas of forest, but indeed grow in agroforestry and grow in tandem with the forest. One of the biggest tragedies, really, of this report is that actually cocoa flourishes very well in agroforestry systems, which is a system where you keep the forest standing and you use the shade of the forest to grow your cocoa, which actually works very well. But it's also a crisis of poverty. And I think a Liberian farmer will like to clear land because it allows them to grow rice, and the cocoa is often intercropped a bit as an investment to be able to sell as a cash crop in a few years' time, while they're also producing cassava or rice for them and their families. And I think really the question is for the traders and the chocolatiers to pay fair prices for the product, and also to support the Liberian government and the exporters and the farmers to develop sustainable practices. That's really the nub of the problem.
Charlie, your report indicated that not a single Liberian cocoa farm has received certification under Rainforest Alliance's scheme, which means, what does this mean? Now, let me not, interpret it. What does it mean?
Yes. So Rainforest Alliance, for your listeners that are not aware, is a system of certification that is used on almost every chocolate product sold in Europe. And if you buy a chocolate bar in Europe, it will almost always have the Rainforest Alliance seal on it, which is a little frog. And there are two kinds of certifications for Rainforest Alliance. There's the supply chain, and those are different classifications. And then there's also the farm. So I believe to be certified in Liberia, I think you need to have a commitment to sustainable agricultural practices. You need to have not deforested, say, since 2014, I believe is the cut-off date. But the real thing is certification for farmers is incredibly expensive. And for farmers, living in really difficult situations, certification is just not going to be really a thing that is an option. And whilst in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, for example, you have very large cooperatives that band together and they use their money to get certification, for example. They actually, the cooperatives that, our reporters talk to and I talk to from London, that while they're growing, they're not as mature as in those countries. They're not as well set up. They don't have this strong power in the cocoa sector in Liberia. So I think until that happens, there's not going to be widespread certification in Liberia. But I think actually with the question about the EUDR, we've really moved beyond this certification question. What we really need is the whole country, not just individual isolated examples, but the whole country to be creating deforestation-free cocoa. And referring to my last point, that's exactly where the major EU companies, traders and chocolate companies need to work with the government to set up that system. So every bean sold outside of Liberia or even inside it can be completely traceable, and you can use a system to work out exactly where those beans have come from and which farmer. And that also allows you to run an analysis where you can work out whether there's been deforestation there in the last few years. So I really think traceability is really the heart of the sustainability question in the cocoa industry.
From your analysis in this article, do you sense some level of, ignorance on the part of the locals that are involved into cocoa farming, that they do not understand, certain things regarding what they should do, what they should not do to ensure that their cocoa is not, deny entry into the EU market?
Yeah, there's been some amazing work. I know IFAD, which is part of the FAO, have done some great work. I think our investigators met some cooperatives and individuals in Nimba County, I believe, who have been trained, and they're very keen on using these agroforestry methods that I mentioned earlier. I really think there is a possibility of sustainability in cocoa in the next few years, and I don't really think it's a question of ignorance on the part of the farmer. I really don't think there is a role for me as a Western, journalist or UK journalist to really sort of victimize as I said, farmers that are living in, that own a piece of land. There may not be a wealthy family. They may be growing the high price of cocoa at the moment, which is a huge, push factor for why so many people in Liberia are planting cocoa. We just need to be really clear. I think the responsibility is on the traders and also the exporters. So lots of the exporters that I talked to and we interviewed are Lebanese in the capital of Monrovia, some are Liberian as well. And I think there was a limited understanding about traceability. And it's important that some, like IO Group, for example, they claim to have mapped over 20,000 farms. And I think this is a real... Other groups as well have begun their process of starting to map their direct supply chain. Now, this is really brilliant. And, one cocoa campaigner that I interviewed for the piece said, we've seen more progress in the last 2 years on traceability and sustainability in cocoa than in the last 20 because of the EUDR. Is actually driving exporters. They say, well, hang on, if I don't have a fully traceable supply chain, I'm not going to be able to sell to Europe. But we did also find that, from the exporters, often that was quite confused because they were still buying large quantities of cocoa through middlemen. And with middlemen, you lose that traceability. It could really have been from anywhere because the middlemen we talk to, they say, oh yes, we buy from any farm. It doesn't matter. Their priority is to keep the cocoa flowing, not to make sure that it's, not come from a deforested farm. So I really think that shows that the exporters are making efforts, and that's really encouraging. I don't think that would have happened without the EUDR. However, there's still a huge amount of work to do. And as I said before, I really think the traders that have sourced millions of kilograms of cocoa and made a lot of revenue out of buying Liberian cocoa, they should be the ones that step in and help and pay for that system.
You did a brilliant analysis in this article, Charlie, and you talk about middlemen. The middleman, you mentioned, a couple of seconds ago that his major concern is that the cocoa should keep flowing. So whether the cocoa he's given to the exporter, as far as he knows that the cocoa is flowing, he's taking it from whatever forest it's coming from. To summarize all of the issues you've highlighted in this article, where do you think the actual problem lie in the issue of cocoa harvested and exported from Liberia coming from deforested areas? Where does the problem really lie?
I think it's a question at the moment of economic incentives, right? Both from the part of the farmer all the way up to the chocolate makers. Mm-hmm. These huge billion-dollar companies in Europe and the US, etc. So in that, there is currently no incentive for a Liberian farmer to not deforest. Got the EUDR, but that's just, risks being delayed for another year, which means another year of deforestation in Liberia for cocoa. And all the way up to the chocolate company, there is currently no rule, no law that stops them buying as much mass-balanced cocoa. That's the cocoa I talked about before, which is the deforestation cocoa mixed in with the clean deforestation-free cocoa and selling it to their consumers. At the moment, there exists no incentive or way of stopping that. And the middlemen in Liberia, in a country where I don't think we should be charging it by the same standards by Cote d'Ivoire or Ghana, the industry, the cocoa industry is a lot more mature there. They're a lot freer countries than Liberia. And, Liberia is a country where informality is an important part of the trade. But my point is, until those incentives change, there's still going to be deforestation for cocoa. And I'll talk a little bit about Simon, who I interviewed for this piece, and he's using a really, really, I think, really interesting alternative. He's got some support from, I think, the Irish government to roll out a program, which is instead of the farmers planting cocoa, they actually, as a community, come together and they agree to protect their lands and monitor their lands and make sure there isn't deforestation, but they get paid a decent amount for doing so. So that really suggests that we are going to be able to still have good livelihoods and have development without destroying our natural resources. I think it's absolutely vital that the chocolate industry wakes up to this problem in Liberia, because we have to learn the lesson from history. I studied history at university, and I always have a historical perspective when I look at these things. But because of the cocoa industry, it brought prosperity, relative prosperity and wealth to Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana by the standards of West Africa. But we really risk the same problem in Liberia. We don't want to wake up in 20 years and Liberia's forest is gone because of mass planting for cocoa. It's very worrying. And on the Ivorian border, the NGO IDEF, who I'm sure you might have interviewed before,
right,
have done great work on exposing how Burkinabe and Ivorian farmers are moving into new areas of Grand Jeddah and are really causing high levels of deforestation for big, large plantations rather than the small farms that the Liberian farmers usually create. There's a real worry there, and I think the Liberian government has to wake up to this. But also, as I've said, and I'll say it again, they need to be supported by these. It's not fair, it's not morally right that these billion-dollar companies in Europe profit from Liberia's cocoa and hard work, but also don't pay in so it has a sustainable future. And the EU also has a lot of work to do as well. If they're bringing this law, which I fully support, I think it is going to create, it's going to slow down deforestation, and we need it now. But it can't just be, you need a bit of carrot as well as stick. And the EU also needs to set up programs to help Liberia support traceability, because it's unlikely the government is going to be able to do it by itself. It's quite complicated to do.
Charlie, I want to take leave of you, but let me ask you my last question before you conclude with some somewhat of vital points that you may want to make here. What lessons can Liberia learn from Guinea, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana as far as forest preservation or conservation is concerned?
Yeah, well, of course, they prioritized mass planting of cocoa. Liberia and all of the Upper Ghanaian rainforest area has excellent conditions for growing cocoa. But if you grow too much and you deforest and you get greedy, then you end up with no forest, no natural resources. In Cote d'Ivoire now, which is the largest cocoa producing country in the world, outside of protected areas, they have almost no forest. I think there's one study that says they've lost 70 or 80% of their forest, mainly through cocoa farming in the last sort of 30, 40, 50 years. So the lesson for Liberia to learn is stark. Okay, there's huge opportunity, but the government, the EU, cocoa companies, chocolate companies in Europe and the US and other areas in the global north, they really need to create the incentives to provide the support to Liberia. There's a really interesting initiative actually that has come out of the last COP in Brazil, which is the Tropical Forest Forever Facility, the TFFF as it's called, which is going to provide direct payments to governments based on the level of deforestation. So there's also a good incentive for Liberia's government to sort out the deforestation crisis in Liberia, because they're going to be paid for every hectare preserved. And a lot of that money is also going to go to indigenous peoples as well, which is really promising. I think a lot of Liberian cocoa farmers in the cocoa industry look at Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and say, that's the model we want. I think you have to proceed with caution, because now their cocoa industries are facing real challenges. And that's actually, ironically, what caused the massive spike in cocoa prices, because of the droughts and Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. So Liberia has to learn those lessons and, build a sustainable agroforestry, community-based cocoa, and also look at alternatives like the program I mentioned for forests, where, we can actually directly pay communities to protect and maintain their forests rather than cut it down for cocoa.
Thank you so much, Charlie. If you're just joining us, this is a conversation with the author of this very insightful article titled Chocolate Giants Fuel Deforestation in West Africa's Last Rainforest, which is Liberia. Charlie Hammans accepted to speak to us on the Forest Hour show. And it's good that we have him. He's provided, so much information to Liberia. In fact, share his own insight, sitting down and writing this article, analyzing Liberia's problems regarding, the cocoa industry and how middlemen and other challenges that the country is faced right now as a result of this huge investment in cocoa from chocolate giants around the world. But Charlie, how would you like to close? What final thing would you like to say before we end the interview?
Matthias, I just want to really thank you for your amazing questions and for your interest in the report and all the brilliant work that you're doing with the Forest Hour show to bring forest news to the people of Liberia. For me, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to people in Liberia. I found it to be the most enterprising and fantastic people to talk to all across the supply chain. So a huge thanks to you, and really I hope that your Forest Hour work continues really strongly. Thank you so much for talking to me. Look forward to talking to you soon. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really...
And that's right. That's Charlie Hammans. Charlie is from the Global Witness, and you listen to Charlie as we conducted this interview with him. Charlie could not be available at the moment, as in getting him live to speak to us now. So we had a pre-recorded, and we spoke with him this morning regarding the article. The article is detailed. You can also check on the Liberia Forest Media Watch page. We share the link of the article. It will take you directly to Global Witness Witnesses website, where you're going to read a full article. Don't be afraid. For the 6-page document, it's not too big of a document,
be afraid.
to read. But let me recognize our own David Young. David Young is following us from Gambia. David, thanks for joining us there from the Gambia. And John Dode Kemo Colley is also following us from Wiala, Margibi County. And Shivadoski Gotsi is following us from Claratown, District 14. And thanks you guys for joining us there. So quickly, just to make a few points, Joy, before we open the lines. What this article is saying, I don't mean to say that you did not understand what, Charlie said. All right. So, I have to be very careful as a communicator. You don't want to, you don't want to come across, talking down on people like,
right.
They don't understand certain people when they speak, but they understand you. But, just to add something that he mentioned ADEF. ADEF, we also had a conversation here once where we spoke about that Avoran NGO that recorded, information about Liberia and Liberians and Ivorians getting involved into cocoa trade, smuggling of cocoa. It's a detailed document as well. I think it's a 17 or 18 page document as well.
Right.
We read that here, we analyzed. A few things that he mentioned are that, Matthias, do you know that there are companies in the West today, though he didn't mention a particular one, they have dropped Liberia in terms of cocoa purchase. These people are producing chocolate. But because they are in the EU market, some of them have dropped Liberia. So the cocoa that you're not taking from here, these companies, even if the exporters, the traders take the cocoa from here and carry it to Europe, to the European market, because what's happening is that the cocoa is mixing.
Right, with some clean cocoa.
Right. So it's like you take a sandy rice and you take some clean rice and you put the clean one on top. You mix it with the sandy one. The sandy one is there's some clean one below at the bottom, and the sandy one in the middle, some clean one at the top. So when you open the bag, you taste it. You don't buy any sand, and then you say, oh, the rice is okay. So that's what Charlie is saying, that there's this mixture of cocoa going on now. People are taking cocoa from Liberia, they're mixing it with other clean cocoa from other countries.
And not just from Liberia, from the deforested land.
Right. So land. So that is the major concern.
Right.
People are planting cocoa. You don't have to. And cocoa is one of the, I think we mentioned here before, that it is one of the soil-friendly cash crops.
Yes.
That you can plant it anywhere.
Into agro-farming with it.
Absolutely. Do you know that you can even put a cocoa, maybe say for example, you put it in a pan. Imagine a pan with soil. It's going to grow. It's going to germinate from there. Once it's the soil is fertile, it's going to come up. So the bottom line is, let us reduce the issue of deforestation in Liberia.
And imagine, Matthias Labendi, with all of the deforestation we are involved in, though, I mean, people will do ugly things for proper benefits, right? When you're involved into deforestation, we expect you to get enough money to be able to build the country. With all of the deforestation going on, we're not seeing the right benefits for the people, and more damages are being caused to the extent Charlie had mentioned that Liberia and poverty are literally walking in line because of these same things. We don't know where the money going. What's the essence of destroying the forest when you're not making use of the income that are coming? Because cocoa right now is one of the main income
generating
cash crops,
right.
Yes, in Liberia.
Right.
Liberia cocoa is very expensive because it's, I think class A, we talked about it last time. I think it was mentioned in the European deforestation regulation.
Right.
It's one of the very important cash crop out there.
And you know, one of the subtopics in this article that Charlie wrote, he referred to it as black gold. Yeah.
That is very expensive.
Right.
It sounds so. That's the problem. You cannot destroy the forest. I mean, you make sacrifices. There are sacrifices that are needed to be made. We agree.
Right.
But you cannot completely destroy the forest. And we're not even seeing the benefits that are coming after the sacrifices. There's no need.
No much benefit. The middleman, he mentioned. Well, for me, what I want to do is just to take the cocoa to this exporter.
Imagine.
I don't care whether the cocoa is from deforested area. As far as I know, I just want to take the cocoa. But Charlie mentioned one thing too, though. For the image of the country, he is calling on the government of Liberia, encouraging the government of Liberia to ensure that you sit with exporters and say, you know what, let's work on the issue of traceability.
Right.
Let's work on the issue of this deforestation. Since cocoa is a kind of cash crop that grows even among trees. Let us evolve into agroforestry, agro-farming, rather than cutting down the trees and planting cocoa. Cocoa does not have time for that. If you like, plant it by a very big tree. It's going to make it, we're going to grow, it's going to bear for you.
Yeah.
All right?
And if these middlemen come with any form of cocoa,
there must be,
you should be able to trace it through GPS.
Exactly. Where is this cocoa from? This cocoa is from West Point. This cocoa is from
Grand
Nuclear
Chile.
Town. This cocoa is from Grand Chile. Okay, we're not taking cocoa from Nuclear Town. We're not taking cocoa from Grand Chile, but we're taking cocoa from West Point. So
Right.
West Point cocoa, pack it this way.
In
Nuclear Town
fact,
cocoa,
we have to go and make sure that it's actually
from there.
West Point.
Because you have to give us GPS coordinate of the farm.
And we, apart from, yes, when we get there, we also have to ask and see for ourselves. It's not just to have the record there.
Right.
We should see for ourselves, and we should monitor and know what is going on.
Exactly. Let's open the lines, folks. We don't want to spend a lot of the time talking about this, but you two can join us. You know that when Global Witness starts to investigate your country, you should know that you are up for a rude awakening. We know what happened here during the Sally's administration. Big ball one, big ball two. We're not talking about that. But I just want to remind you
Yes.
that we are now working with the Global Witness. We're now having conversation with the Global Witness, and then having a conversation this morning with Charlie Hammans. It was a very interesting thing, speaking with Charlie. And the article is so detailed. That's why we're encouraging you. When you reach it to the page, don't be selfish now. Just like and follow the page. That's what I want to encourage you.
Yeah.
So if you visit the Liberia Forest Media Watch page, just like it, follow it, and click on the link where the article is posted. Then you can certainly go directly to the Global Witness website and read it. And altruist Cyrus Matthias. Okay, you just saying Mr. Matthias. I'm Mr. Labindi. Most of my French friends always call the first name, or Mr. Laz the first name. So Mr. Joseph Yokbo II said, thanks for the conversation. I'm following Career Alternative Reform Empowerment Care Head Office in Virginia, Hotel Africa. Thank you, Joseph. But let's go to you now. Call us on the numbers 0777 700 05 905 905 05 905 905 0777 700 905 the numbers you can call us on to participate on the program this this afternoon. Sorry, but if you in case you're listening to us there in Grand Gide,
Yes,
in Bapolu, in other parts of outside of Montserrat County, you can call us on 0770 6825 98 0770 6825 98 or 086 11 9140 086 11 9140. Let's hear from this first person. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Let's hear you. Good afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the show. My name is Bob Evans. I call from Monrovia.
Evans, go ahead.
I listened to your expert. He spoke very well on the issue of this conservation and protecting the forest ecosystem of our country. Mm-hmm. But here is it, right? You're talking about the significance of cocoa farm across Liberia, and Liberia has one of the best cocoa products across the land. Everybody across the globe are now opting for our cocoa. But before you can have cocoa in this country, you must firstly cultivate the vegetation. So I don't understand the concept.
What do you mean by cultivate the vegetation, cut down all of the trees, all of the?
You have to.
No.
Listen now, because you have to do cutting of some considerable number of trees. So if you're talking about the significance of having cocoa farm, then I don't know how it sounds.
No, but sir, that's why.
Listen, there are sustainable ways that we can do that, and if you want for our people to shift their level, remind you, they are communities that survive on the forest ecosystem. They are communities that rely on the forest. So for you to now shift those kind of people, you need to provide an alternative livelihood for them. I don't know whether he's thinking in that direction as well.
He's not. It is not his responsibility to provide. Thank you so much for your contribution, sir, to provide alternative livelihood. But the thing is, we sat here and told you. In fact, there is a publication right now that Paul Kane and I worked on, and I had to visit Lofa and Nimba counties to get the data and came back to town. We worked on the publication. Right. The Daily Observer has published it, and in fact, it's also published.
Was it a recording that you sent me?
Right. It's also published by the Rural Reporters News Network. What we are saying is that you can plant cocoa without cutting down the trees. The trees. All right. I mean, when we talk about cutting down trees, obviously we're not telling you that the small trees that are along the way, you're not going to touch them. But you don't want to tear down all of the logs.
Okay.
You don't want to bring down the logs just because you want to plant a cocoa. You can
And
plant.
we have already suffered from enough deforestation.
Absolutely.
From that same farming.
Right. So you can go ahead to invest into your cocoa plantation without cutting down all of the big trees in
Plant the
that
cocoa
environment.
among the trees.
Right. Let's hear from this person. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Matthias Labendi.
Good afternoon, sir. Let's hear you.
Thank you. My name is Prince Shmu Kotiman. I joined by the Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi in the Electoral Center, FDA Shopo.
Mr. Kotima, go ahead.
Thank you ever so much, you and your co-host, for always bringing us up to date as it relates to our forest sector. Well, for me, one thing I want to urge our farmers and those locals within those rural communities to see how best we can preserve the forest. Because the forest means a whole lot to our ecosystem.
Right.
The forest has to safeguard humanity. But notwithstanding, people in those rural counties use the forest for survivability. So for me, I'm calling on government to be very much efficient, proactive, and effective in making sure they sit down and have a dialogue with these community dwellers, people who have access to indigenous land or whatever form of land. And if it comes to our forest once more, our forest is key. So people who are planting cocoa, coffee, rubber, or whatsoever, they need to be cognizant of the fact that our forest needs to be preserved to protect our ecosystem.
Okay.
So if they want to do business in the forest, wherein that business will help them to upgrade their livelihood and survivability, I think they need to be very well cognizant of the fact that they need to also protect the forest so that tomorrow we cannot have an effect that will affect the entire country.
Okay. Thank you so much, my brother. I mean, if you look at the scenarios he provided, Ghana, for example, experiencing, one of the toughest weather conditions at the moment. If you visit Ivory Coast, for example, now, you know what Ivory Coast is doing now? They are now, there's this saying I heard from one of my mentors, Dr. Ketekume Mure. He said, you either choose now to invest in your future, now, pay for your future today, and play tomorrow, or play today, then you pay tomorrow.
Yeah.
When you play today, you pay tomorrow, you'll be paying your old age. And it can be very difficult.
And you might not even succeed.
You might not even, exactly. So it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, he mentioned Ghana and Ivory Coast, and the statement that he made that caught my ears is one of the statements. He said, they learn their mistakes too late. And that's so true. They especially Ivory Coast now, with the deforestation that they have gone through, the damages they have caused. Right now, I can assure you, they wish
that they still had their forest. So if they had the agro farming methodology at the time, they wouldn't have cut down their trees. I saw agroforestry, agro farming, firsthand. Joy. The article is titled "From Destruction to Sustainability," so forth. Check on the Rural Reporters News Network, or check on check on our Facebook page, the Liberia Forest Media Watch page. You're going to read the article. If you go through the article, you're going to see how people are now finding sustainable solutions rather than destroying the forest, completely. So sometimes when you call, you want to argue. We're not experts here. But every time we came here to do a talk show, to present this show, we do our research, do our homework. Imagine having a conversation with a journalist that took close to maybe a month writing an article, one story. He even had to transport somebody, buy a plane ticket for someone from London, and came all the way here, join a local journalist, Paul Kane, of our own, to visit the various areas that they went to gather the data. So that is not something. It's not a data that you're just gonna, just trash like that simply because you don't believe it. The new idea of doing things is draconian to your own idea. So I mean,
just take that call.
Right. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, let's hear you.
Okay, I'm Tennis. I've been calling from Proman Street.
Let's hear you, sir.
So I've been following the conversation and appreciate the point that Charlie made, especially when it comes to the issue of the deforestation and how local farmers who don't know what they are doing, but they're using that means to generate income. I just want to say that if the farmers can work with Liberian government, also the Liberian government can work with the farmers, they can come up with a plan or policy that will allow the system to be working, because farmers have to find a livelihood, and the farmers then also need.
Oh my God, he left the line. So Joy, yeah, go ahead.
So the last time we were discussing the European deforestation regulation, EUDR, a caller called and he made a statement saying the European nations will be telling us what to do with our forest, and they cut down their forest and they build skyscrapers. It just came to my mind, okay, so what's the use of building skyscrapers in forested land or deforested land and then suffering from earthquakes where those same skyscrapers will end up falling into the ground and causing some life lost? What's the essence? I mean, yes, we can develop in so many ways. We're about to build our bridge or a bridge around the ministerial complex. That's a good development. We don't have to cut down the trees.
We don't have to destroy the natural resource. That's a natural habitat of endangered species. So you listen to Charlie mentioning that Liberia is a habitat of many, important species. And recently, in fact, I'm working on another production of one of our subsidiary program called People in the Forest, or taking forest out to the or people in the forest, right? People in the forest. So when the recording is done, it's produced by B and Howard. We usually take these things and share with local radio stations that share the same philosophy we share in terms of educating the people. If visit a feasible forest, do you know that these people have protected that forest for generations to generation? It is one of the thickest forests you can find right now in Liberia. It's in Lofa County, feasible. All right. So I mean, with years to come, these people stand a greater opportunity of attracting anyone who wants to go into medicinal production of medication.
Right.
They told our
the forest, most of the medications that we are looking for, most of the sicknesses that we are looking for cure for, the forest own a lot of medication that we don't know about.
Right.
Quick, let me just list the relay stations, and then you call the numbers for the community people so that they can be able to call on the show.
We're done already. It's basically 2 minutes to go, Joy. 2 minutes to go.
Sorry.
But Joy, before we go, let me just squeeze in this last person. Hello, you just have 45 seconds, please.
Okay, as I was saying, so it is not only with the farmers, those are involved in the logging industry also. The forest, they destroy the forest in order to generate money. And at the end, even planting enough trees to be able to go to replace that forest, and at the end, it becomes bad and damaged and causing climate change as well. Because part of the forest, we need the forest to be able to regulate the flow of the climate change, to be able to get our rainfall. So this issue really need to be addressed. And I just call to say, the farmer also have the issue, but we should also look at the logging industry sector as well.
That's why we always speak against illegal logging in the country. But thanks for your contribution on the program, as always. Yeah, he's off. It's off. On your own, Joy. You're on. Your mic.
I did my earphone.
Right. Okay. So we have to go. So as we go, Joy, how would you like to close?
So probably some people don't know how important the forest is. Let me just give you a little gist. The forest is so important that we have so many ministries and authorities related to it. Imagine just for the forest alone, we have the FDA just for the forest to just take care of the forest. We have Lands and Miles, or Miles and Energy, right? Just for the forest alone. Yes,
we have Land Authority.
Land Authority. It's not just for the forest, but it's 70%.
They connect. They're all connected.
They're all connected. We have the EPA. So this is how important the forest is, to the extent that we have 4 to 5 different groups just there to protect it, and yet we're not protecting it the way it should be protected.
The way it should be protected.
It's sad in Matthias.
Very sad, and Joy. We have to go. Trocon is very magnanimous with time, and we can be defiant. We have to go. But Thanks to our team leader, Paul Kane, a very creative man. The man with many ideas. Anytime he sits down, he's always thinking about something. And right now we are cooking something. And when it dawns, you're gonna feel that as well. We are cooking something. It's gonna be brought to you very soon. Thanks to our colleague Charlie Hammans from the Global Witness. Charlie, it's always a pleasure. We will be glad again to have a conversation with you very soon. My name is Matthias Labindi. This program is brought to you by the Liberia Forest Media Watch with sponsorship from the European Union through the French Development Agency and Simempo in Finland. Have yourselves a wonderful time.